Hello, this is Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap. And today, let's talk about how to avoid incomplete requirements. This is a big one, right? A juicy topic. And it's so important as BAs. This is how we really know that we did what we were supposed to do, is if we avoid missing requirements. So let's talk about it and let's dive right in. So before we talk about the tips I have, I want to share the question that came out because I just think it's so insightful, and the kind of pressure that we put on ourselves as BAs, it really comes out in this question. So here's the question from this reader. In my company, there are no business requirements meetings. Business requirements are discussed among other meetings that include brainstorming, future feature planning, and the design reviews. The time frame is generally 1 hour, and I don't feel like I have the opportunity to ask requirements questions that I need to. And I want to ask due to the time constraints and the many agenda items in that meeting. Again, I'm told the requirements are not being captured completely. What is a recommendation you can give to improve my performance? Okay, so big issues here. Kind of that pressure of trying to get things done in a short amount of time, feeling like you need to work within somebody else's meeting, and then being told like you're not doing a good job. This is not fun. So let's dig into exactly what to do here. The first thing is you want to get clear on your role. Whenever performance issues are at stake, like understand what is it that as a business analyst that you're truly responsible for. Not all business analyst roles are the same, and your role might be a little bit different than you expect. And so the number one reason people have performance issues is because they're trying to deliver something that people aren't expecting of them. And so you really want to get clear on what those expectations are. So talk to your project manager, talk to your manager, talk to the stakeholders who use your requirements, like understand what would help them the most and how you can make the best contribution. So what gap are you responsible for filling? That's what you're looking for here. And then you want to take ownership of the requirements process. So the last thing you want to do is try to fit your requirements process into somebody else's meeting schedule. Like as business analysts, we're typically scheduling meetings, planning out the elicitation and discovery process, planning out the review process of our documentation, which we're going to get to next. So you want to take ownership of that process and say, in order to deliver on that role that we just clarified for me, these are the steps I need to take. Often it's going to be a couple of discussions to discover the information, a couple of reviews, some time to do analysis in between that, reviews and validation that you got it right. So you really want to take ownership of that process and say, this is what we need to do, and then schedule those meetings the time that you think you need, probably giving yourself a little bit extra time even, and really work to make those productive, effective meetings that move the requirements forward. So that's the second thing. The third thing is to be sure not to skip those validation and reviews. So just showing up to a meeting and asking a couple of questions is not enough. It's a guarantee that you will miss requirements if you're only asking questions. You also need to do some sort of walkthrough and validation. Now, this doesn't have to be like 5 hours sitting and reviewing a 50-page document. I've done that early in my career. That's how we validated requirements. It was painful. It worked to a certain extent. There were some flaws in that. It's not a best practice today, but you have to do some sort of a walkthrough. It could be, a wireframe walkthrough. It could be a process flow diagram walkthrough. It could be a use case walkthrough or a business process walkthrough. Whatever it is that validation that the documentation that you've created, the analysis you've done is complete and isn't missing anything. And that's when you get that yes but response from stakeholders that leads you to new requirements that you're gonna miss if you're just asking questions. Okay, so then what next? You have to do what we just said, clarify your role, own the process, and then do the validation process too, which is where the new requirements are going to come. Now you might have resistance to this, right? So if there's a reason that somebody's kind of giving you a few minutes on an agenda item, they don't think that this is what business analysis takes. They feel like you just kind of are going to create the requirements out of thin air. So you might have some resistance at first. And so you want to demonstrate your value quickly and easily and make sure those first meetings you schedule are really productive. And you might start by, instead of like the whole thing we just laid out, take ownership of one issue that came up in a meeting and say, you know what, I will schedule the meeting to just make sure we discuss that issue. Like if an issue's in a meeting and it's kind of going off track and you can tell like it's just going to completely derail the meeting, be like, you know, I'd love to jump in and I can schedule a follow-up with just the people that need to be there, and we will handle that issue and make sure we get the requirements defined for that issue, and just like take ownership of it, right? And demonstrate that you're starting to work in a new way and that you're ready to contribute and that you're able to contribute in that new way. One way to start breaking down the resistance to the process. Another is when those issues, requirements do come up, say, you know, this is what I'm going to do to correct that. So I'd like to hold a meeting, go through the requirements document, make sure that this time I haven't missed anything, really get the stakeholders involved, and use that as a solution to when, you know, these performance issues come up. Suggest an alternate approach and use that as a time to get buy-in, because you've got to overcome it. So until you take ownership of the process and have the space to take ownership of the BA process, you will continue to miss requirements. You will continue to feel like you're scrambling and rushing and not getting what you need, and you'll be kind of reactive instead of proactive. So how can you shift from that reactive, I don't have enough time, to here's what I need to be successful as a business analyst, and here's what I'm going to do. So again, I hope that's helpful. Good luck. It's a tough challenge, a tough situation, but I know that you can do it, and I know these suggestions are going to help you improve your work as a business analyst overall. So again, my name is Laura Brandenburg. I'm the creator of Bridging the Gap, and we help mid-career professionals start business analyst careers.